Hey everyone, me Kevin here. In this video, I want to help you get free money. I've been getting a lot of questions about retroactive stimulus checks and how to get certain free types of stimulus, and some things are confusing, and I keep seeing a lot of the same questions, and I really appreciate all these questions, and I figured, hey, to put a dent in this, why don't I just make a video talking about each of the different topics a little bit. So I think this is going to be very helpful for many of you, and maybe you'll find something that you didn't even realize you could take advantage of yet. First things first. Somebody asked, Kevin, I'm self-employed. I don't believe I qualify for unemployment pay because my income might be too high. What should I do? In my opinion, you should go to your state's unemployment insurance website, which you can find by just typing in your state name into Google, California unemployment insurance, Florida unemployment insurance, and apply anyway. You have about 3 weeks left to apply, which a lot of people are like, why am I going to go through the application process? Why would I even bother dealing with this? The reason you would rather deal with it is because if you get approved for even just $1 of state unemployment pay, you unlock the retroactive $600 per week boost going back to March. That means March, April, May, and June, and then your weeks going forward, which 4 times 4 is 16 weeks, which could be as much as $9,600 of retroactive pay you could get that you've been missing out on a weekly basis, but they'll catch you up. That's basically free money that you would be able to get, and it's free money that you're leaving on the table if you don't apply. So this explains why many of you have been posting screenshots like, I got $7,000 deposit, from the state unemployment website, and you're posting in our Discord chat. Well, that's because of the retroactive pay. It exists. It's real. It's not clickbait. Like, people are actually getting this money. You just have to qualify for at least $1 of state unemployment. So give it an apply, and the worst that'll happen is you spend 20 minutes or whatever doing the application, and it doesn't work out. But best case scenario, you could be picking up some free money. So in my opinion, you have nothing to lose in giving it a shot. Now, we'll talk more about stimulus checks and more retroactive pay in a moment, but I want to answer the question, is unemployment pay taxable? And the answer is yes. Unemployment pay is taxable, so you are responsible for paying taxes on it. So basically, I don't recommend that you spend everything that you get from unemployment pay. Put aside a little bit for taxes. If you're confused, you can always check with a CPA to see what your tax rate is or was. You could Google tax rates and tax brackets, but I just recommend if you're in doubt, put aside at least $1 out of every $4 that you get. Don't put it all into the stock market, although I know that's what some of y'all have been doing, and you've been doing quite well. Just encourage you, be careful at the moment. The good news is, though, you can still get 2 free stocks with Webull when you deposit $100. You get 2 free stocks worth up to $1,400 in the link down below, next to your link for life insurance. Now, some of you ask, hey, I got a stimulus check. Is that taxable? If unemployment pay is taxable, is the stimulus check taxable? And the answer is no. The way the stimulus check is structured means it is not taxable. And the next round of stimulus checks probably would not be taxable either. That's at least the way things are currently written in the HEROES Act. Some of you also wonder, what if my income went down in 2020 and maybe now you would qualify for a stimulus check, but you didn't get one originally because in 2018 or 19, your income was too high? Well, you could get your free money when you file your taxes in 2020. That's when you should see that stimulus tax credit show up. Now, what if the opposite is true and your income went up and in 2020 you won't qualify for the stimulus money anymore? Well, the good news is if the IRS sent you stimulus money, they're not asking for any of it back. So if you make more money or they sent you too much money by mistake, they're not asking for that money back unless somebody passed away. In that case, they are asking and trying to get that stimulus money back. They don't want money going to people who passed away, although they continue to send checks to people who have passed away. Anyway, the same, by the way, goes for children. If you have a child in 2020, you should be able to claim that money on your 2020 tax return. So it does mean you'll probably have to wait until about April of next year to see that money. Now, some of you wonder that if you apply for the EIDL grant that I keep talking about, those of you with a side hustle or those of you who are self-employed, you go to the website, the covid19relief.sba.gov, and you see that it says this is an emergency injury disaster loan. And you're like, oh no, this says it's a loan. Am I in the wrong place? I just want the free $1,000. You're actually in the correct place. If you go to covid19relief.sba.gov, or if you can't remember that, just remember metkevin.com/1000. It just redirects you there. It's an easier way to get there. You will see a page that says emergency injury disaster loan, and you are in the right place. You are technically applying for a loan, and you are technically getting your credit checked. However, on the last page of the application, you check a little box that says you're requesting an advance of up to $10,000. And this is going to give you, or should, if you get approved for the grant, there are two pieces of this, this should give you $1,000 per employee that you input into that form. So if you're self-employed, you're your own employee, so you put in 1. If you're your own employee, you're self-employed, you put in 1. You put your information in, your social, you work for yourself, you put all of your own information in, and then hopefully you qualify for the free $1,000 grant. You could also get offered a loan, but you don't have to accept that loan. Even though you're using that same application, you can deny the loan portion and still take the free grant. That does not have to be repaid. The only way something would have to be repaid is if you actually signed a loan agreement, and that would be accepting a loan. But you're not doing that when you apply for the grant. Then some of you are wondering, is this $1,000 taxable? Because many of you have actually been getting the $1,000 grant, and I think that's wonderful. The SBA has been issuing a lot of these $1,000 deposits. And it depends on how you spend the money. Technically, this money is supposed to go to your business expenses. So let's say you drive Uber and you spend $1,000 on a new stereo. Well, you should probably be able to write that expense off, that $1,000. So then your tax return would kind of look like $1,000 income from the grant, $1,000 expense because you spent it on business-related equipment. Well, then it's technically not really like you paid any taxes on it, right? Because you wrote that off. But if you take the $1,000 grant and you don't spend it on your business, yeah, it's probably taxable because you've now kept that as income. Now, some folks are wondering, what about heroes pay? You keep hearing things about $13 an hour, and how do you get that? Well, that was included in the HEROES Act, but sadly that bill has not been passed yet. Right now, I regret to say that there is no heroes pay on a national level, although there might be something for you on the local level. You could give your county or town a Google. Others of you are wondering, hey, I'm thinking about drawing free money from my 401k, because the CARES Act says I can draw up to $100,000 penalty free from my 401k, or I could take a larger loan against my 401k, or I've got all these options. What should I do with that money? And I personally believe you should only take this money if you actually have a plan for it. Say you want to buy a house and you find a great deal, like a wedge deal, like we talk about in my program link below, with that coupon code expiring tomorrow. If you do that, then that's great. Like, you can take that $100,000 and create wealth with it while still preserving your money. Obviously, unless you buy a really terrible investment. In my opinion, that's a great idea. But you have to have a plan. I wouldn't just draw the money and then put it in my bank account, because then you risk spending it and you're really robbing from your future retirement then. I personally find when I have very, very little money in my bank account, I'm not motivated to spend anything because I don't have anything and I don't want to rack up credit card debt. So I end up spending less. Anytime there's I got paid and there's money in my bank account, I find myself more willing to spend more money. And I think that's a really bad psychology. So I try to keep my bank account really, really low on purpose. And then I spend the money on investments or bills or whatever. Now, some of you have also been wondering, should you take mortgage forbearance? This, ideally, you have a lender who offers you mortgage forbearance, but also one who authorizes you to take 6 months worth of forbearance up front and then add those missed payments to the end of the loan without any kind of penalties or any kind of additional fees or interest. That's what the CARES Act establishes. But if your loan's not federally backed, or if you have issues with your servicer, or maybe you have a VA loan, which is sad, VA is supposed to offer you some of these similar benefits, but they've been a little bit more complicated to deal with. Some people are getting through their servicers with VA, some people are not. If you have a cooperative loan servicer, usually there's not much of a downside to taking forbearance, and it lets you put a lot of extra money in your pocket over the next 6 to 12 months, which you can then invest and grow. And even though you have to pay that money back at the end of your 30-year loan, you could have probably invested that money and grown it into something way larger than basically what you have to repay in 30 years. So yeah, it's not free money, but in my opinion, if you haven't taken mortgage forbearance yet, you in most cases may as well, unless of course you want to buy real estate within the next 3 months. You have to have made your payment for 3 months to be able to buy or refinance real estate. So if you're thinking about getting a new loan, maybe don't take mortgage forbearance. But otherwise, for most people, it does make sense to take mortgage forbearance. So just make sure you check with your lender and the terms are good for you. Some people are now wondering about retroactive stimulus checks. And just a heads up, that comes from the HEROES Act again. It's not passed yet, but the HEROES Act would give people who are 17 or older, who were claimed as a dependent, the retroactive $500 that they missed out on because they were claimed as a dependent. Those are adult dependents, those are a lot of college students, and a lot of those folks got screwed under the $500. They would get that as a retroactive $500 payment plus the new $1,200 if the HEROES Act passes the way it is. Now, some folks are also wondering that you've heard there's a donation deduction. And what is this? Well, right now, the only donation deduction that's actually been passed is within the CARES Act. And this allows you to write off up to $300 as a tax deduction. So for example, this fundraiser that I run on the channel, it's No Kids Hungry. I don't see any of that money. It goes straight to the foundation through YouTube. And so if you donate $100 to No Kids Hungry, ordinarily you wouldn't save anything on your taxes. But now the CARES Act lets you deduct up to $300 whether or not you itemize your taxes. So if you don't know what itemize your taxes is, you probably don't itemize your taxes. So either way, the CARES Act allows you to deduct up to $3,000. Now, obviously, I still always recommend check with your personal CPA, not any CPA, your personal CPA, because they're going to know your tax situation the best if you have a CPA. Otherwise, you could always consult one if you wanted to about these bigger tax questions. But you can also look that section of the CARES Act up yourself for deducting $300. Now, others are wondering, should I apply for the PPP? I'm self-employed or have a small business. In my opinion, there's almost no reason not to at this point. And so I recommend, if you're in doubt, which a lot of you still are who watch my channel, what I recommend you do is this: apply. Try to apply. I'll link a video down below that you can watch that'll help you. I'll kind of break down here for those of you looking at the EIDL and those of you looking at the PPP, watch these videos, how you could use those with unemployment pay. Go through some of these videos and I think there'll be enough of a guide for you to actually get this done. At the very least, put in your application with like Blue Vine or Cabbage or something like that. Not sponsored at all. Just put your application in and decide later, but at least get your application in. So that way, while Congress has left DC, you're still taking all the opportunities that you can to take advantage of free money. So if you've liked this video, consider sharing it. Check out the courses linked below and that coupon ending tomorrow. And folks, we will see you next time.